Hello and welcome to my video all about slipping stitches in knitting. I'm going to teach you how to slip a stitch knitwise and how to slip a stitch purlwise, which are the two most common forms of the slip stitches. I'm also going to show you how to slip a stitch purlwise and knitwise through the backs of loops, as well as with yarn in both the front and the back of the needles. These are more rare occurrences of the slip stitch, but you may come across them now and again. The first method is how to slip a stitch knitwise. This is very simple, and all you do is knit up to the point you want to slip the stitch. Take your right needle and go into the stitch on the left hand needle, just as you would if you were going to do a regular knit stitch. But instead of then knitting that stitch, you simply push it off the top of the left hand needle, and that is a slip stitch. All you're really doing is taking a stitch off the left hand needle and onto the right hand needle without actually knitting or purling it at all. You're just slipping it. So to slip a stitch knitwise, you go into the stitch as if to knit, but then just slip it off the left hand needle. The only thing you need to remember is that the yarn should be at the back behind the needles. Then to slip a stitch purlwise, you make sure the yarn is at the front of the needles, and you take your right hand needle, go into the top stitch on the left hand needle as if you were to purl it, but instead of purling it, you simply slip that stitch off the top of the needle. So you now have a slip stitch on the right hand needle. In order to slip a stitch knitwise with the yarn in front, you simply take the yarn from the back, between the needles to the front, and then simply slip a stitch knitwise as you did before. So you go into the stitch from front to back, as if to knit, and then slip it onto the right hand needle. So it's really very easy. If it says to have the yarn in front, that's all you do. You just put the yarn in front of the needles before you slip the stitch knitwise. Same with slipping a stitch purlwise with the yarn in back. Obviously normally a purlwise slip stitch would have the yarn in the front, but with this one you take the yarn between the needles to the back before you then slip the stitch purlwise. To slip a stitch knitwise through the back of a loop, you go down through the back of the top stitch on the left hand needle, but instead of then knitting through the back of the loop, you simply just slip that stitch off onto the right hand needle. To slip a stitch purlwise through the back of a loop, you have the yarn at the front and you go up through the back of the top stitch on the left hand needle and slip it off onto the right hand needle. So those are all the variations of the slip stitch that I'm going to cover today. Some of them you may never run across, but if you do, now you know how to do them. I hope this has been helpful, and thank you very much for watching.